Health and wellness fans, good evening. Welcome to episode 7 of the YCast podcast that's revolutionizing the way men think about their health and well-being and their life, one conversation at a time. I'm Tony LaRosa. Across from me is my partner and co-founder of Project Y, Rob Davidson. Rob,
how you doing, buddy?
What's the word tonight, man?
I think we have a great show ahead of us. Yeah, pretty interesting show. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Excited about a good conversation. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we always say we're excited about the show, but a lot of these topics are new territory for us.
Absolutely.
So I plan on learning a lot tonight.
Yeah,
from
me too.
Our guest.
Me too.
I'm wearing red, so I'm feeling a little randy. So I think this is going to kind of benefit a lot of people out there.
Definitely me. I looked at the list and I was like, yeah man, I need this.
Well,
no question.
Let me say this about Project Y, because I know we really don't talk about like the mission and the substance of what we're doing, but it's really important that we have knowledgeable women with experience telling guys what they need to do. Because I'm not speaking for everyone, but I think guys are not that good at relationships.
Yeah.
I
would say that's probably true.
Yeah. I think we need a lot of guidance, a lot of patience. And obviously Michelle will kind of tell us.
You mean women have to be patient with us, or do we need the patience? Or both?
Both.
Maybe.
Absolutely. How annoying we can be. I know how annoying I could be.
Yeah.
So we needed that on both ends, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think this is something we could have multiple shows on.
Yeah.
And really drill down on these subtopics that we have.
Yeah. There's a lot of verticals that come into play here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love the title of the show, Beyond the Bench Press.
I do too.
The modern man's blueprint for relationships, resilience, and real happiness. This Beyond the Bench Press, to me, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it applies to every man, because every man isn't in the gym or anything like that.
Yeah. But
I
that
think
masculinity component, right?
Correct.
Just focused on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That there's more to life than, and how these all kind of come together, I guess.
Yeah. Without doubt.
And I'm sure Michelle will kind of explain that to us because we need some guidance for sure. Men at any age, those in committed relationships, looking to improve their overall well-being. I think that's, the message we're trying to send and how to do that.
No.
So, shifting focus from physical health to, a critical role of strong relationships and longevity.
And I think you can argue physical health, and I'm sure Michelle will talk about this, really does relate to physical and mental, right?
Yeah.
So good mental, good relationships definitely helps with physical health. So
good. We've all gone through the workouts, the diets, the therapies of all sorts.
But you had the therapies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still. Are you listening out there? But there's always something missing. And I thought, when I so the way I connected with Michelle was, she had this great post on LinkedIn,
right?
That really it was profound for me, because it was like, we're always like looking for a subject for our episodes. And it hit me as like, this is perfect, because
I remember you telling me about it that day. Yeah.
Because we need topics for men. Yep. And what better than to have an educated professional woman who has experience and understands how to, express this to men.
Well, can we get her on now? You got me, okay. I want to talk. Right. I want to learn.
All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce Michelle Gillette. Michelle, please tell me if I did not pronounce that correctly.
Hi, Michelle.
Just like Razor, Gillette.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Right.
And let me say, longevity expert, certified health coach with specializations in functional medicine, brain health, performance, breathing, relationships, and more.
Yeah.
Good evening, Michelle. Thank you for being here. It's been great speaking with you last week and kind of doing all the prep. But yeah, why don't you, tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. So my original career was in the hedge fund environment. I worked on a trading floor. So I had that, early drive and go and conquer. And I worked with a lot of men. I came from a family of 3
Sorry
steps.
to hear that.
No, I actually really liked the pragmatism. I liked it was pretty black and white.
Right.
And I have a foot in both worlds. Like I grew up with a lot of women around, and I'm very much a girl's girl, but I liked working with them and have always related well with men. So I found that the work really spoke to me, that I could communicate in a way that was just, you on a trading floor, you got 3 seconds to say something, and you had to shorten it, and you couldn't go into all these curly cues and circuitous versions of communication, which sometimes women do. So I learned early on a better way of communicating. It transferred into later working with a lot of men of peak performance and that type of thing. The trajectory, though, was first I went into life coaching after I had children. I left the hedge fund, became full throttle mom. Absolutely loved that, but then found my little squirrel brain needed more activity, and started helping people with, hey, what's my next purpose? And found that a lot of us were really tired. By being like, yes, I want to go conquer this other world, but we're exhausted. So I eventually got into functional medicine, helping my son heal. I had to heal, had Lyme disease and mold toxicity and mercury. I mean, had all these things to work through.
Sure.
So brought on another certification with a year-long program with functional medicine, started really focusing on what's going on with men. Had been working with women for a long time. But I was finding that men have, especially because mental health is an area that I've looked at because of my father's circumstances. He was in that area, and that didn't end well for him. I took a greater focus into it, and I have a son, so it led me there. And that's where with all these different certifications, but it's really about a holistic look at a human being. And
I love that. That's great. That's great. Now, did I hear you say you had Lyme disease?
I had Lyme. I've overcome Lyme. Yeah.
Likewise. Yeah. We're in a shared group there. Yeah, absolutely. I had Lyme disease. That's a tough one. It's a
tough one, and it affects you, physically, emotionally, mentally,
like everything.
Do. So you really get it when somebody's struggling a little bit, and there's some empathy that is instantaneously granted, the compassion.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry you went through that, because I know how it is. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it gives you great perspective of other people's struggles, and I think when you connect with them, they get it, like they know.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Well, thanks for the background. So I think the overall arching topic here is that the physical, and Rob and I were talking about before we introduced you, but the physical health is only part of the equation.
Yes.
And why I messaged you and about the post you wrote, because it just really affected me, and I told Rob, and he looked at it and said, "Oh, this is perfect, this is great." Because basically we need help. We're people that are struggling in this area. I think I could speak for a lot of men. So it's good to have a woman's perspective, especially for our mission and what we're doing. And I think one of the thing you had on your post was this was a statistic you had: married men live 4 years longer
in healthy relationships.
Yeah. And healthy, really. That's a good yes. That's a great caveat. Yes. Absolutely.
So if you want to give us a little insight on that, that would be great.
Sure. It's people talk all the time about, I think the post was about, like, people are constantly talking about, what should I eat? How should I exercise? And all of this. I'm like, okay, this one pillar that nobody's talking about is relationships. And we all hopefully have them, right? We grow up in the village concept, or we did, and we're trying to get back to that. So but our relationships can keep us up at night, if they're not great. And there's some health factors and, involved with bonding with someone. We're pair bonding species. We grew up in a tribe, and feeling isolated and lonely, we'll talk about, I'm sure, today. But those things can affect our mental and physical health, actually. So, in a great relationship where you have a sense of belonging, and, they say that more than even your genetics, and your family, is the people you're hanging out with have a bigger impact on your life. So if you're hanging out with healthier people, you are more prone to have a healthier life. And if you pair up with a woman, let's just say that today we're talking about heterosexual marriage, because that's the one I understand firsthand. then, and you're eating well together, that's more
Right.
likely to have,
Just taking each other's habits.
Yeah.
And
Without a doubt.
It's not just eating, but some of it's support, it's the sense of belonging.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Point taken for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we'll dive into a little bit today too, is just kind of talking about how guys can kind of be open to, just sharing more things with their significant other, and being able to reciprocate, and hopefully that manifests into, healthier. And
I imagine though, when you talk about relationships, and marriage is one of them, right? But one of the long-term relationships, typically you're 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day at work. So coworker relationships, like the people you hang out with, friends, I'm sure coworker, relationships have a big impact on health and attitude and mental state as well, I would think.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Michelle.
Yeah. And, these days people aren't at jobs as long.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stop and go. And I think people get a burnout kind of like, it's like you talk to kids who were Army brats and they're like, I get tired of like making new friends. And sometimes there's like attachment stuff that kind of like people can shut down. I want to go back to something though. I want to say this, that is where I have a lot of compassion for men. Society sets it up for you at a very young age to shut down on certain things, to not talk about certain things. You're a wuss if you cry, but we all have all the emotions. And I think for men, a lot of them are shut down, and then you get in a relationship and they're like, well, why don't you talk to me? Why don't you listen? Why can't you talk? Why can't you tell me what you need? Why, or, not, the EQ stuff, really wasn't cultivated, at least in our era. I don't know how old you guys are, but in my era, it wasn't.
25.
Yeah.
No, I would agree
Since
with
you
that,
asked.
though. I think that's right on. I think that's exactly what happened.
And by the way, I mean, let's really be honest about how early it starts, right? Circumcision, like, oh, he doesn't feel it. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I don't know, but I
think I still have that recurring dream.
I still can't sleep at night.
I mean, come on, like, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, don't cry, don't talk about it. So there's a lot there that's shut down. Where I do see there's a lot of room where men are allowed to emote freely. Sports, you can yell your head off, and profanity, whatever. Sex, that's big, that's an easy one. And what else? Like, there's one more. I'm trying to think of like, with your, a lot of men when they have daughters, it really shows up. Their soft side shows up.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's that vulnerability, And I think we actually talked about that in episode 5. Our show is about loving yourself. Yeah. And being open to just having those spaces and just doing certain tasks to be able to appreciate yourself more. Yeah. And learning how to be vulnerable. Yeah. Because those precious moments, especially like you said, with your daughter, or, doesn't matter how young your daughter is, let's say, but you can always learn those special moments and get vulnerable at any age. And that can potentially translate into your other relationship with, like, let's say your wife, or
I would say that's having a daughter myself. Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, you're absolutely right. You're going to show you a softer side. Yeah, and actually does teach you something as you're doing that. Believe it or not, right? Teaches you something about yourself.
Right.
That you do have a softer side. So, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very safe place, right?
Yes, it is.
Like,
that's a good point.
More than even a mate. Sometimes I see really strong relationships with, and I love it when it happens with the son too. It just is a little bit less likely. Sometimes that's the mom.
Right.
It's a really beautiful. It's a beautiful way for a man to open up who's been shut down.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And I'm a witness too, because I witness you with your daughter, and she's very comfortable, like, telling you things, and it's. So you could see that. You could see that, how that manifests.
How old is she?
Yeah. She's 24 now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I was 5 when I had her. No, but yeah, 24. Yeah.
We're all
yeah, and let's not forget about, like, what a healthy relationship does for, like, reducing stress, anxiety. I guess there's other physical ailments that could help. I'm not a doctor. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
You leave that toilet seat up, you're stressed. And,
Yeah, healthier
Absolutely.
habits, right? Married men are more likely to engage in healthier habits. Regular medical checkups. They're always, women are always telling guys, get to the doctor and go get this mole checked, right?
That's very true.
And also, prioritizing health. And they're taking off some of the caregiver stress. Sometimes women are taking, so the men can, go work out more, that type of thing. Sometimes. That's not, I don't want to be reductionist and think that, let's not pretend like everybody's the same. Let's just say in general, that's kind of,
right. Yeah.
But it can reduce risks of heart disease and other chronic conditions to have.
There's studies out there.
And you actually establish a routine with a partner too, right? So you sleep at the same time, you know, most of the time you're eating, good meals instead of going out to fast food all the time for the most part, hopefully. So I like that. I think you're right.
And then having a place to share that's safe. Creating a safe place to share.
Yeah.
And then
Tony shares with me every day. So
well, we've been married for 50
sometimes an overshare.
Your work. One of you is the work. Well, I won't say wife.
Exactly. I think too. One of the things I saw early on in some of my relationships is like when you bring that significant other to meet the rest of your family, that whole relationship has to be fruitful as well, because it makes you, if things are good on all ends, it makes you have better connections with your family and with your friends. And
true, that's a good point.
And the opposite is true too. It can cause a big rift, which brings us to like the dark side of relationships, right? Like, having something divisive, and not that it's not saying it's all the woman's fault at all. Sometimes the man doesn't step in. I've been in a situation where I'm not going to name names.
Yeah. No, do it now. We're live.
I was married for 23 years with someone for 26 years. And, I think one of the biggest blips we had was when I needed him to step in and say something to a family member, let me feel protected by this person crossing boundaries. And he didn't when I needed him to. That was a big thing. So sometimes it's that, and just it comes into communication and priorities and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, the not all relationships are toxic, but let's just say the toxic side of things, it can have mental health effects, physical health risks,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And let's not mention, if you're in an Italian family, that's
well, I'm Greek, so we're right with you.
Very close. Yeah, very close.
Exactly.
Greek and Irish.
All right, there you go.
I'm a fighter.
I wanted to go back on you were talking about early stage for men, growing up and just not having that maturity yet emotionally, and feeling that they have to chop wood all day and can't open up. And what do you see? I mean, you work with men, obviously. So like, what do you see some of the main issues are that come to you? And then what are those remedies that you can recommend?
I would say the number one thing would just really be the socialization, like we mentioned, to close off and to not feel safe sharing. But I will tell you that one of the remedies is finding, having someone you can confide in. I mean, you'll talk. I know someone who has shoe shine operation. She was all over at the airports, and the stories of what men will come and say to their shoe shine person, because that is an anonymous person who's not going to they're not going to show up at the family picnic. They're not going to gossip about it, or the barber, right? Yeah. So having sometimes that's who it is. And that's not there's still a stigma for some people and some cultures, whatever, about therapy, but people can find in community, the barber, the shoe shine, the buddy on, who they run with or whatever, so those places. And when it comes with women, it's very vulnerable place. So you do have to trust that person. Trust isn't always that you're just not going to go cheat on either side. Trust is also that you are going to have my back and you're not going to go share everything. So
showing up.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it is about feeling safe, and that's a nervous system regulation thing. And that is also attachment. It has to go with attachment. So if somebody grew up with somebody who's really inconsistent, as a parent for whatever reason. Could be a drug addiction, could be postpartum, could be somebody being abusive. It could just be somebody working really hard. Could be like there's a bunch of kids in there's a lot of reasons. Big families, sometimes the kid isn't going to get all their needs met.
Right.
Not blaming parents, like that's not the point of this. It's more like what happened to you when you had needs. Were you met with love and consistency? And unfortunately, a lot of us weren't for whatever reason.
Right.
And so sometimes we can have insecure, like anxious attachment styles. There's a smaller, part of the population that has a secure attachment style where all the needs were met.
Right,
so then you come into life where you feel threatened. Back on the Serengeti, when we were in a tribe, if you were a baby and you were left alone, you were going to die. Somebody was going to eat you up, right? Yeah. So our body, with all these, million years of biology, is telling us, if you're rejected, be scared. If you're ignored, if somebody's scary, pull back, watch, be hypervigilant. So all these things build us as we're growing, and it's about trust and safety.
Yeah. And then there's like, those, I guess they're probably rare, but there's those kids that are not insecure, that, just kind of fly through life and, don't have that trauma attached to them, even in big families.
Yeah.
Because I know just in my small family, I could say, like, there was so much, big Italian family, crazy people, like always drama going on, something happening. But I could say, like, I kind of got out pretty safe, like I don't have all this trauma, and I felt secure as a kid. So I think that's
a little debatable, but
yeah.
No, no, you did.
So that's more like the village concept, right? Like I grew up with I had parents who weren't really equipped to be parents, but my needs were met mostly. My grandparents and aunts, and like I had family around. So sometimes it's not always the parent. It could be a sibling. It could be like, my two kids are 24, almost 24, and my daughter's almost 22, and they are best friends. So that's great. Now watching them go through life together, like, the little twin emojis, like just like it's so much fun together. So they really have support.
Yeah.
Well, their cousin, like they have these conversations with all three of them, and they support each other.
Yeah.
Like that support is, so it's not just parents. It's like,
I agree. Right. Yeah. Extended family plays a big role.
Yeah. We're all parents at this table. So I think we all know what the difficulties are. And, especially if you're a single parent, you've got a lot to worry about. Yeah. So you almost hope like kids can kind of like, do their thing and take care of themselves to a certain extent. Yeah.
About showing up for people, though, and men having the problem of like maybe not always opening up and being closed off, or not. Some of it's just opportunity, and them again feeling comfortable with someone. So I find that I can talk to somebody in the NFL who's never seen a therapist, and culturally it's not looked upon as something positive to go do. But we can I can meet someone in 5 minutes. They can be telling me a story, and I think about their life. And sometimes it can start with something like, "How's your sleep?"
Right.
You're talking about sleep. I'm like, okay, and I can get in there and go like, well, what's keeping you up at night?
Right.
If I use the language like, what are you afraid of? They're like, I'm not afraid of anything. But I'm like, what gives you that warrior spirit at 2 a.m. where you want to go fight and fix something? Like, what's that thing you're trying to fix? And then they can start talking about, oh, well, gosh, yeah, I've got all these people on my payroll, and I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
Then, my wife this, or my, whatever. So. Yeah. Sometimes it's getting in there through an innocuous way. As being a coach and not a therapist, people are way more likely, I find, to like open up because they're talking about their physiology, but their physiology is affected by their mental health.
Sure. Yeah. Are we going to get any NFL gossip? You just can't say NFL and just like, breeze through.
Well, I will tell you that I think a lot about TBI. And there's not talk about that. Yes, we talk about that, and I love when there's a big tough guy who feels comfortable enough to just knows they're in a safe place, and I'm not showing up anywhere to ruin their day or their career. No, it's really good. I think I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to reach out to other people and to be that safe place for them in whatever capacity. And I love that.
I've done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was going to say sometimes it's somebody's teacher is that person, and sometimes it's the neighbor, and sometimes you don't have to be a therapist or a coach to be
right.
someone and hold space for them.
Yeah. I've been twice in my life. I've gone to therapy. I won't tell you why, but first time was with a guy, and it just didn't work for me, you know. And then the second time I had a woman, and yeah, I just felt like just more comfortable. I was able to express myself more, because I think women understand a guy's emotion more than a guy even does, or that guy who's even trying to express what he's thinking probably does. So I think, like, you know, you just have to kind of find that right person in that right space, and you know, potentially you could open up and be more vulnerable.
Yeah.
I find I've gone to therapy a few times, and I find I can I can give a snow job to a guy therapist. So like there's like, okay, like you're great. Oh, wait, so I really do need to be here, but I can like they don't the ones I've seen, and they're fantastic for other people, but the ones I've seen, I need a woman who's like, yeah, what about that one?
Yeah, definitely more in tune for sure.
And I'm like, well, I'm not here paying you $250 an hour because I'm fine. That's something I want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I want to drill down on a couple things, some techniques and things, and I'll say a couple things, and then, you know, you let me know like which way to go with some of these topics. Communication, we know it's a huge barrier, and I know I struggle with it. I've struggled. I think I've gotten better in my older self, but listening, right? Because I think that's one thing that I've struggled with is I'm hearing them, but I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say next before I even digest what they're trying to say. So, I mean, what's your advice on, you know, I guess being patient in the conversation, really listening, and then, you know, replying on what that, you know, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So you hit on the nail on the head with active listening, and that's it. It's way easier to talk about it than to actually do it, because typically, and I fall into this category too as a mom, is that I want to fix things, and men often want to fix things because that's like very linear. Like, here's a problem, I want to fix it. So I would say one of my biggest tips, and I'm still working on this too, is I need to do this in my relationship with my significant other, and I need my kids to do this with me, which is to come into a conversation and say, or, you know, learn to ask the question, do you need me to, you want advice? Or you want to, like, here's the thing, you want my ears for listening, you want my brain for problem solving, you want my arms for hugging, you know, do you like, what are you looking for here? Just, you know, what is it? And because that's sometimes when a man will kind of, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's almost like, oh gosh, well, now you're making me feel worse about the situation because you're telling me why didn't I do this thing that you would. So I think that's it, is really knowing what they want in that moment. If you are the listener, right? What are they looking for? And just establish that, and asking the question, just flat out, you know, how can I show up for you here? What's my best way to serve you? I would also say I would advise couples to, if they have this dynamic in their relationship where the woman talks a lot and he doesn't know what out of the 472 words she used were the important ones, for her to say something like, brackets up. This is the important part, because
you were being generous with those 472 words.
I mean, no, I do this.
That's before a breath.
I used to sandwich things in between, like, and I just had this conversation the other day, like sandwich something you don't like. Oh, by the way, the Amex bill is really big, but I would sandwich in between, like, oh, I made you pot roast, and the Amex bill's on the counter. It's kind of bigger this time. Oh, by the way, we're going out with, you know, the Strongs on Friday, and I think you're gonna golf. You know, like, and then you're like, oh, wait. You know, a week later, where's the Amex bill? I told you it was on the counter.
I told you,
You know, so sandwiching, like,
softening the blows, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to say what's important. Like, this is important. And also the other thing is timing, to say, when's a good time to talk to you about this?
Right.
Is right now a good time? I would say do not have an important conversation when anyone's intoxicated. Know your body.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're really tired, and it's okay to say to someone, I don't have the capacity right now. This is like, right now is not a good time.
Yeah.
It's also,
That's tough though.
Yeah.
Saying that, because a lot of people don't.
I think you can say it nicely in a way that where you're appreciated. If you do it in a way where you're really doing it for the benefit of the greater good, not because you're avoidant, right? You're saying, okay, I absolutely will, give me 15 minutes. And you might need to go take some breaths or something like that. But like, even my kids, I love them more than anyone on the planet. But like, if I'm in the middle of something and I'm going to be rushed, my answers are going to be clipped. Like, if I've got somebody on the phone and they want an answer, I'm going to be like, brr, 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 like it's not going to be warm and fuzzy. So that they're not going to receive that as well. So some of it's just that, like, hey, I've got 20 minutes between these two calls, and that.
So 30 days is too long. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
The Gottmans,
duly noted.
the Gottmans who study relationships say, like, that old adage of like, don't go to bed angry. They're like, sometimes you can't resolve everything that night because
I agree with that. Absolutely.
For whatever reason. So they say, when you get into bed, touch your feet. At least touch your feet. Like, so like this, sometimes it's just the hug. It's like, okay, we're both dysregulated right now. How about we just hug? If you hug for 20 seconds, the hormones, the interaction, the oxytocin.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
20 seconds.
Rob, your dog has small feet, so it's going to be pretty tough for you.
Yeah.
I can hug her.
Yeah. Let's talk about the impact of technology and what's said, because I know we've talked about this before a couple times, but smartphones, social media, we're all trying to rectify things, or we all have these heated debates and through cell phones and through social media, but we never have the face-to-face heart-to-heart conversations anymore.
And a lot of that gets misconstrued, right? Where you texting and
context,
stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the text, first of all, don't ever send a text in the middle of the night.
When you're drunk. No.
When you're drunk or when you're because sometimes we're like, our emotions are like in the middle of the night. Our subconscious has been like working hard and putting us in fear. Sometimes we wake up we can wake up in a panic if our blood sugar, something's doing something with our blood sugar. Like, there's a lot of physiological things happening where you shouldn't be sending a text, especially an impassioned one in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So don't do that. Also, I would say for important things, set aside a time to chat. And I would also say, don't leave a cliffhanger. Like, we need to talk. And then like the other person, like, shit, what's going on all day? Like, all day churning about it. Like, hey, I want to discuss this. Not an issue. I just want to make sure we set aside time, or can I, and something that somebody taught me was, hey, can I have a safe place to share something with you?
Yeah.
And that means you got to behave when you hear it.
That's true. That's
a really useful one.
Yeah, that's a good
one. I have a secret, or maybe a tip for guys out there. A couple of times I been in that heated moment with my significant other or any family member, anything, you're saying don't send a text. I would text myself sometimes, like, really what I want to say.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I didn't walk away from it. Give yourself time to cool down.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you decide you want to actually send it, you send it. But I know myself, I get real fiery in the first 5-10 minutes and then, calm down a little bit. So that's my tip.
How many of them did you delete going to me?
Yeah. And it is funny when you go back to read it, you're like, whoa, I'm really glad.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, I was in a different headspace at that moment, 3.5 minutes ago.
I think it's also important to tell someone how you operate. So for instance, myself, I'm really warm and fuzzy at first, and then, but if you don't listen to me, like if I have to say something 3 times, a third time sometimes isn't that nice, because I don't ask for a lot, and so when I ask for something, it was hard for me to ask for things. So if I had to say it a couple times, and it was hard for me to ask in the first place, then the third time I'm like, not that nice. So I know my own patterns. I think everyone should know their own patterns. My other pattern is that if I'm really upset about something, I take time ask myself some questions, and it might look like I'm pretty icy to somebody else. So I say, I need some time. I'm going to think about this, because what's happening is, and I tell them this when I'm not dysregulated, before we have an issue, I say, I'm just going to tell you how I operate, because I actually have like an operating manual and I share it. And I say, if something bothers me, I am going to take the time to figure out what part is mine, because, you know, hysterical is usually historical. There's usually something else, and I will own mine, but it might take me longer than you want. Like, so what the Gottmans say is like leaving somebody on a cliffhanger is hard, but worse is reacting instead of responding because you didn't take the time to think. So I have to say to my partner, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to look really busy in the house. I'm going to be folding clothes and like moving, because when I move, I think, and it's going to look like I'm angry. I'm processing, and then I'll come back. And what he appreciates is that I will come back calm and but like more loving. It's softer, you know, than I would when I'm not. So exactly. Know yourself and know how you operate and how you fight and how you have conflict and how you resolve conflict, and then hold yourself, you know, in a higher regard for the greater good, you know, to learn.
I think, and you just said something that clicked, you know, conflict resolution is huge, you know, and I'm kind of, been in this pretty recently, where, you know, I'm in this brutally fantastic relationship, and, you know, everything's great. And then, you know, when you reach those points where, you know, you get a little uncomfortable, things are awkward, how do you get out of that? You know, because I've been in relationships in the past where it's like, you know, you fight, there's no question about it. And then it happens, and you make up and you do these things, and you know, like pretty much how the next one's going to go and the next one. But when you're unsure and you don't know how the other person's going to react and how they resolve everything, that sometimes could be even worse. Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm totally tracking, but if I what I think I'm hearing is, how do you offer up a bridge to start talking again and get over the hump of it? Like, because that is called the golden bridge of like, hey, I'm making pasta. You want to come?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, exactly. I do that with my kids too. Like, honey, you're in your timeout, but we're going to be making cookies in a little bit. So when you're ready, come down. And like, then you make it nice for easy entry.
So just make cookies.
Just make cookies. There you go. I like it. I'll come down.
Yeah. We're gonna make nachos or whatever, like their thing is. Like,
you
know, make the re-entry easy, and they might be no, you know, like, and that's okay. But you did your best to like to extend. And you know, I think just like when I would tell women in dating, like, don't, like, if you're gonna go to a bar or some restaurant, you want to meet someone, don't make yourself so like, you have to make yourself a little bit available, like to friendly. So go walk to the bathroom by yourself, or go do something where you're available for them to even approach you. Make yourself more approachable, make eye contact with somebody. So it is about you becoming like almost like a better host of like, I'm open to talking, you know?
Right.
And so that's the same in an argument. I am not as good as my partner at that.
Okay.
The Greek thing.
All right. The real Michelle's coming out. All right, we see it. maybe this show is going to help you out.
No, it does. No, I work on myself all the time.
Yeah.
You have to. Well, I imagine it's continual, right? You always have to work on yourself.
I feel like a fraud if I'm not. Like, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to have a perfect relationship, and I know that I'm actually not incapable.
Right. But you have to also admit, like, you know, or critique yourself in a sense, because if you just think like they're, you know, I know people out there just, you know, they don't think they say anything wrong or they do anything wrong, and they just, you know, kind of go through life like that. And how are you supposed to check yourself if you're not open to, hey, I screwed up, or I said something wring, or I, you know, mistreated someone?
Right.
Yeah. We would need a 5-hour show for me, but you know.
I think that it's a beautiful opportunity to learn more about yourself and to get I don't know. I always like to learn. So it is amazing to get to like to resolve these things that have been holding you back, you know, to push people away or to sabotage something because it feels too good, or like to notice all your patterns. That's one of the most amazing parts of work is to recognize your own patterns. I will say this one tip is that, and it's really useful, is when somebody does something that like they cancel a plan or something like that, or like they want to go on vacation to something that's like you don't like the idea of it or whatever. Be careful about like what you make that mean, because that misinterpretation of like going to get clarity of like I might make somebody mean if they wanted to go like, oh yeah, well I've got a week off, we're gonna go ATVing and fly fishing and this and that. I might make that mean this is what my life's gonna be like. I mean, I'm more of like a resort girl, like I really want to do, like, you know, and making it mean like I can't like long term with this person. Hell, God, yeah,
Right.
you know, all of a sudden I'm 90 years old with a big trout, and I'm like freezing and like like you like be careful of what you're making it mean, or if they cancel, they're
they don't like me. Yeah.
Ask the questions, like, right. Hey, would you maybe be open to you doing that on a guy's trip, and then like we do our little romantic thing on another time,
Yeah, but guys are so like they take that stuff so personal, like, oh, you don't want to go fishing with me? What do you know?
Well, guys want to share, I think.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
Well,
probably sharing the wrong things.
No, I mean, like I've gone fly fishing in Alaska. I had a great time, but that's not the vacation I want to do for 7 days every year. Right.
Yeah, likewise.
In the rain. No, I don't.
Yeah.
So,
well, we talked about sharing activities earlier, so I think that's how to bridge that. Like get all of your your hobbies, things you like to do, and same with your significant other, and then how you bridge that. Even though if there may be a few things that she doesn't want to do, and there's a few things that you don't want to do, you got to find some common ground there.
But you know what? It's beautiful to have that polarity. Esther Perel, one of the biggest relationship experts, talks about you need polarity. It's good to have the distance. It's even good to have tension, because the tension is where you're going to grow and you're going to know each other. Just avoiding it and not talking about it, not having tension, you're not going to get deeper in your relationship. It's better to like have the tension, resolve it well, and be like, look at us. Look at that.
Well done.
Yeah, I think physical intimacy too is a big thing, and it's not just about sex, right? It's the physical touch, it's the affection, it's little things. How we bridge that is important, because I know like I've gotten I guess more sentimental in that regard too as I got older. It's like you don't only have to touch when there's like this sexual moment. How do you express that with just grabbing their hand or things like that, I think are super important.
Esther Perel says that your courting and the foreplay starts the minute after your last orgasm as a man, because it's like, how nice are you going to speak to her? Are you going to hold her hand and rub her back and play with her hair? Like, I mean, it starts then. And women will say this, and I don't think men appreciate that. I don't even think women think about this that much. A lot of men are more visually activated than women. Scientifically, they look at this, right? And so they kind of expect women are going to just, miraculously, I live in a beach town in Manhattan Beach area. There's 6'4" guys with 6-packs walking around all the time. I never look at them and think, oh, meow, let me it doesn't happen that way for a lot of women. And I have a really high sex drive, but it still doesn't happen. What happens is my partner scratches my back, like touch, sweetness. It's like, oh, I went and got you your coffee. It's kindness, close. It's women feeling safe. So sometimes women so that's part of it, is for men to know, is like, it's like, are you caring for her? Do you actually know her and care about her? That makes a woman feel safe. That actually makes her nervous system go into her parasympathetic instead of her sympathetic, which is fight and flight. And, the rest and digest and tend and befriend is the warm one where you're going to connect. And I would also say women don't appreciate, I remember an OBGYN saying this to women who lost their sex drive. They're like, start by starting. It's like, you might not have that initial moment where you're like, yeah, I can't wait, because I've had kids crawling all over me, and I don't want anyone else touching me. But then start by starting, and then you can kind of roll with it a little bit, a lot more. But they don't. I don't think enough people talk about how important it is to have that affection that can lead into it. So because women are often responsive to touch more than the idea generating in their mind individually, spontaneously, like it does with men often, times a day, but a lot compared to, Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, like, even like just having like a date night,
Mhm.
every week you do maybe have this one night you guys go on a date.
yeah.
And I know for me that's a huge thing, right? I mean, I think it just shows appreciation.
Yeah.
It shows, it could lead to some physical intimacy. And it just, keeps that flame alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say have date
Sure.
afternoon and,
Yeah.
date.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people are tired night after a big dinner.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just do a little research on that,
Yeah.
like on where or just try different little
A little more spontaneous.
yeah. And also I would say any man, like this is my number one tip, not number one, but the important one is really listen to what it is she really loves. If, for instance, if someone sends me red roses, I don't really like, they're so boring. I'm sorry. It's really thoughtful. I will appreciate the thought, but I won't get excited about red roses. But if somebody sent me peonies, my favorite flower, and they knew that, like, it's the thoughtfulness, right? If
right.
for my significant other, he likes peppermint, like the little York peppermint patties, if I'm at the store and I get those, it's like
Right.
kind of thoughtful things. Like, I'm thinking of you, it's like little thoughtful gestures. They're part of care and to somebody. So being a little bit like really hearing, and knowing what the love language thing isn't really scientific, but it's a great conversation starter. So
right.
I've heard men talk about, like, my wife, like, I don't feel appreciated. And a woman will be like, what are you talking about? I'm doing the PTA and I make dinner and I do this. And it's all these things that are amazing. She's superwoman and she's exhausted and he's exhausted and neither one of them are connecting. But she's actually amazing in a bunch of things he doesn't care about. And he's amazing in a bunch of stuff that she doesn't care about.
Right.
Amazing at the things your partner cares about.
Yeah. I find my secret has been, I think she's listening, so I don't want to give it away, is the coffee every morning. Just making that coffee, bringing it up to her. And you just get the best smile on her face, and it's like, man, that didn't take much, that was like great. But, I think for everybody, that level of appreciation is different. I think,
Yeah. I dated somebody who would leave like green juice because I'm like healthy, right? And he'd make green juice in the morning and he'd put that in flowers on my doorstep. And I was like, oh my God, this is sweet. And everyone I told went, oh my God. And he was kind of not that great of a human being. Otherwise, he was great in some ways, but like not everything. Right. So, but boy, did that get some leverage with people. Like it just because of the thought,
That's the little thoughts.
I don't want to.
How about that pen?
I don't want to like give away some, for like the manipulators. I don't really think you guys don't listen to that because work.
Right.
Well, I think too, I know we've taken chunks we talked a little bit about, but better parenting, I think is, men who have children, being able to strengthen, having good relationship, I think also transfers into how they parent. I would think.
Yeah, definitely. I would say.
I would say that. I mean, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a healthy relationship, I feel good.
You're a better parent, probably. Yeah.
I think so.
Better nurturing, better balance. That makes sense.
You'd have to ask them, but.
Well, I think that it's going to improve your mood and.
That's important. That's super important.
Probably better at work too. I mean, all the functions, right? Get better if you have a good relationship, I think. Yeah,
increase productivity, creativity. I think it inspires a lot to attain the your goals and what you're pursuing.
Without doubt,
it's definitely a mental rush for sure.
Yeah,
I think one of the things too for people need to be. Sorry, it's my dog.
No worries.
One of the things to be aware of is that moment, and this has to do with what kind of attachment style somebody has. Is sometimes things are great, and then they're great and healthy, and they're like, this isn't exciting because it's going too well. So sometimes things are going great, and somebody might kind of self-sabotage because they're like, this feels really good, and then there's one person who's used to like more tumultuousness, and that they equate that with passion, right? So there's things that when things are going great, things can still go wrong. I think it's important to be to see how is somebody, after 3 months, like after 3-4 months, and then in the next level, and continually check in with yourself about when somebody gets unhappy about something, to look at themselves and go, okay, how much of this is like, I am, if I'm worried the other shoe's going to drop, or that goes into the attachment style stuff. So if two people can just be happy because they're happy, those sound like two people who have healthy attachment styles, like strong, secure attachment styles, or they are really safe with that person, which is lovely.
Right.
And then, go ahead.
No, I think, kind of choosing your battles too is also a big thing, because I stop and think, I do that count to 10 now and think about, okay, is this something I want to pursue, or, and just learn from that. So the next time you're just more prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Just being aware like that.
Yeah.
Awareness is key for sure.
Yeah.
There's, so I wanted to talk a little bit about dating, because, we're talking about relationships and everything, but I still think like there's this huge gap between like kind of what we're talking about, relationships, right? And I know you've got a lot of experience with this too, as far as advice, and but there are a bunch of guys out there who are dating, and there's just, it's really bad. I think when you're constantly dating, and you're being either shut down, or you spend a night with someone on a date and then it didn't go well, and you start like building up these walls, and you start like thinking really bad things about the dating world, in a sense, and
push your confidence, right? Too.
Yeah,
I would imagine
you get destroyed on that side, and then you just start building up all these bad habits. And then you do finally, I guess, get into a relationship, and then you got to kind of like unwind all of these things that you're so used to after dating for the past like 2-3 years.
What are the bad habits you're referring to? Like, give me an example.
Well, I would say number one would be communication. Because when you're shutting down, and if you go on a date with someone, look, everybody's getting ghosted these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you learn to communicate when you do get in a relationship? Because you're so used to like, not communicating when you're dating, and you're getting frustrated. Oh, and then
Sorry.
I don't think that's me.
And then you're going on these dates, 2, 3, 4 dates a week, and you're just like getting frustrated. And how do you like, how are you able to eliminate some of those, bad communication styles when you're in like these new relationships,
Yeah. I would say know what is, so first of all, women love communication, of, somebody who actually follows through, and
right.
And so I think men get big bonus points from that. But what we're in this society right now where the dating apps, there is a lot of ghosting. It's like discarding of human beings, which is
exactly
right. I would say understand that somebody ghosting you is a favor, because they it's really nice to know, okay, that didn't work. I'm not going to waste any more time. Bye. If you don't have the bandwidth for that or the appreciation of me, see ya. Honestly, the universe did something for you. Did you a favor.
Right.
Why do you I don't know.
I like that though. That's true. That's a good angle.
You don't want to be with somebody who's not appreciating you, number one.
Yeah.
No.
Doesn't have good communication skills.
Sure.
Yeah.
That happens in the job market too. I think sometimes I'm like, God, would I even want to work with somebody who like communicate like a grown up? Bye.
Yeah.
You'd be a terrible boss. Goodbye. So that is one. It's also just, it has gotten so out of hand that you do have to look at it almost like a numbers game of like, how likely is it? If you went on Chat GPT and you said, I need somebody who's, under 5'11" and this age in this town and single and has, credit score or whatever, at least this much net worth or whatever. you'll see what the numbers are, and then they're going to need to be attractive to you, and
Right.
you start to understand that it's really the odds are kind of against you, and not to be deterred by that, to say, okay, it makes sense that that it is a bigger fishing game than
Right.
than it is, and you let go of it, taking it so personally. I would also say doing breathing exercises helps, and having an active life, and giving back, and having a whole life where that's not your focal point, and you are not this is the number one thing. Your self-worth is not predicated on some external person's opinion of you, who may or may not have the capacity to understand you. And even if they can understand you, maybe the timing's bad. You don't know what else is going on in their life. And how many times have you not had time for somebody amazing because you're not on the same wavelength at that time, So it's really not as personal, even though it feels so personal, right? Yeah. And that can go back to your like, what happened? When was your early rejection? Who was rejecting you before? Because sometimes things to heal about that, of going and wanting to sit on mommy's lap, and she doesn't have time for you. Like, there might be things. No, really, it really does transfer into their old wounds. They're old wounds that a lot of men haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Of like early.
That's probably very true.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that can get excavated and just obliterated. Honestly, can be worked through.
Well, social media doesn't help at all for that. I mean, it's all expectations. Everybody is putting up these facades, and so back to the dating thing, it's like, how do you compete? You're seeing you scroll past someone you may know, or some guy you don't know, and he's like, he's sitting on, like a Ferrari, and he's, drinking Dom Perignon, and he's got like these big watches on, and like that's the standard.
That's what you pass.
But by the way, do you want the girl who's going to swipe on that guy? Like, you're trying to get, and I'm like,
no, of course not.
Right.
Of course not.
Exactly. So it's okay that he's on there, because he's going to find the right match. I'm not clicking on that guy.
Yeah.
Not that you're asking me out, because
right.
Like, what I'm saying? Like, the kind of woman that you want probably isn't clicking on that guy. She's like on the nice guy. Like, there is enough to go on. I will say this though, there's a lot of dismay about the dating apps, and so there's a new app coming out. It's called Swerve, SWERV. I just talked to the founder yesterday, and it is destination based. So if you're both in the same location, it is not popular that much yet. But if you're say you're in Manhattan Beach, and you match, your criteria is matched against these other people with the app, it'll tell you, at Shellback, or no, that's not even a bar I would go to. I don't know, like at Arthur J's, there's 14 people that match your thing, and at this other place there's only 2, and at this place there's 27.
Oh, okay.
So you can now swerve like your brand and go to the location where your person is, and it's all nobody can see anybody unless you want to show. So say you went to Arthur J's and you're like, okay, this woman fits all, like, she's in my demographic. You can flash a photo of you where it pops up and she can see you, or she might do that too. Right. So you can find each other, and you've already matched on a lot of things. Like, it could be like your favorite, you both like to do paddleboarding. I don't know. So you could have already matched. And then, so now you don't have AI catfishing. You don't have, Russian mail order Brian catfishing you. You're seeing them. Not everything's like the apps that, Facetune, right?
Yeah.
I
like that.
Them. So that's rolling out like right now.
Interesting. Swerve is called.
SWERV. Yeah.
Okay. And you can download the app?
You can download the app, and you're not going to see a lot of people right now, but as they populate, they slowly populate. Right. So that actually is because within 5 seconds, your neuroperception or neuroception, it's said both ways, is picking up on energy of people, which you can't do online. And that's amazing about it, is you can just be like, ugh, that person gives me the icks, or that person's great. You're still going to have rejection, because you'd be like, oh, I'm wearing the red shirt, and then nobody comes over. You're like, womp, womp, womp,
Yeah. What's with the red shirts?
But you're gonna know, and you're not gonna waste all that time sending texts and getting exhausted by all this,
Yeah.
Well, I think
you still have a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a drink.
Well, I
And
think that's one of the most frustrating things about social, or just like a dating app, because you know I've been through them. Is you know you judge that person right off the bat, and then you know I've been with like in the presence of people that you know maybe I didn't find attractive at first, and you have a little conversation, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know that you're just building that chemistry up.
Yeah, in person's different.
Yeah,
Right? Absolutely.
it's
or
kind
they're
of funny.
funny. I mean, funny goes a long way. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If you don't have any jokes, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they
Yeah.
don't get your jokes.
Or
Yeah.
they don't get you
Right,
jokes. Yeah.
right.
That
Kids
depends.
would say that to me because I dated somebody and like, they don't think you're funny. I'm like, no.
Yeah. And I'm really into like good sarcasm, you know, because it could be like really bad sarcasm where you're just nasty, but I
Mean.
like sarcasm. It shows sign of intelligence,
Yeah, it
and
does.
you know, if you get it when you meet that person, you know, like you know, you kind of see them across the room and like you
Yes.
get it, you know.
Yeah.
That's huge when someone understands like my sarcasm, and then that banter happens.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's always
It's
good.
energy. That's a good energy exchange
Yeah,
and wit.
that's exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
that's-
Michelle, I'm gonna, you know, give you the opportunity here to, you know, just tell people where they can find you, and you know, if you want to give your website out or any of your socials you feel comfortable,
Sure.
just be a good time. I'd like, you know, guys, go out there and, you know, reach out to Michelle, and she does a wonderful job. And I definitely like to get you back on if possible, because I have a lot more dating questions.
You're
Yeah.
not dating anymore.
Yeah. But I think
love
there is I think there's a bunch of guys out there that we need to help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we did a good job on the relationship guys, the married guys, but I still think there's some single men out there and stuff that we need to help.
Yes.
So if you're willing to come back on a future episode, that would be great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say that's good timing because I am creating a little program for men who are in the dating phase, and they are, I would say, mostly over 45, 50.
Wow. Okay.
That's good.
Divorced, or widowed, and they're the nice guys. I'm not out to help the slick guy, like, you know,
Right.
women to him. This is for like the guy who wants to meet the person. I have worked with a matchmaker where I have coached in the matchmaking firm. So I now know a bunch of matchmakers, and I've been through it. I know what people are looking for. I know how to help people with their profile where they get like 300% return, because I can tell them, let's write about what you really want, not the thing you think they want, but what you really want. And, you know, because there is somebody who might want to just get together on Friday, Saturday, Sunday and go home. Like,
Right.
And everyone's like, no, I want a relationship. And they're like, they really don't want a relationship. Like, be honest, because there is a pot, you know, a lid for every pot. So there's people who really want to get married again, or they really, whatever it is, but also like really extracting from them what's special about them. There was a woman who came to me, and she asked me to help her do her profile. And when I spoke with her, she was talking about how much she had. I was pulling, kind of asking her questions, and I found out she had friends for 40, 50 years. It was her house who people come over and make the spaghetti, and they sit at her counter and drink wine. And I was talking to her, I'm like, that's what we have to write, is what's your world look like? And because I was listening to her going, I want to come sit at your counter. Like, it was amazing. We changed her profile. I changed her pictures, a couple pictures, helped her redo those. She met within 1 month. The first guy she dated since she changed her profile, she's married to now. My daughter's godfather, I changed his photos. He had like a brown suit jacket and a yellow tie. And I was like, you look like banana cream pie. I don't even know what this is. We changed it up, I took him shopping. We changed it up, changed his photos. I mean, that's one 300%, boom, just like that.
Wow.
So,
So wait, Lindsay, so we got a comment here. I wanted to, because Keith, I'm wondering if you could answer this. How did Lindsay find you?
What was the brutal honesty?
Apparently you're amazing.
So we met on eHarmony. And we, like, kind of what Michelle was saying, we matched initially before we ever met in person. And we were both brutally honest on our profiles, and I think it helped out tremendously. So.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you guys knew.
And that was with the brown suit and the yellow tie.
Yeah, I mean, just be who you are, you know.
Yeah.
And so, so the best place to find me, I honestly like my website's there. It's pretty static. I don't talk about dating on there, but on Instagram, sometimes I'm peeking slowly into LinkedIn. I had to realize it was a longevity factor, or like frame it like that. It's hard to kind of go on LinkedIn and talk about dating, but it is longevity, your partner.
Yeah, it is.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
People are frequent in there more for sure.
Yeah. So, and I do like it. So I'll do more there, but right now, Instagram, I write, I actually really take time and I write about it. It's something I care about. I love love. I actually just love love. I'm always setting people up. And with the new program I'm doing, I am helping men, with, the female perspective. I'm like their wing woman. So,
what's your handle on Instagram? So
it's Michelle Gillette _.
Michelle _.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Michelle Gillette _. And what is your website? Because I want to.
It's MichelleGilletteCoaching.com.
Okay. Michelle Gillette Coaching.com.
Gillette
post that too.
Yeah. And we'll post that in the comments section.
Yeah.
After. But I want to thank you. This was such a good show. I mean, I think Rob and I are both like,
I have lots of notes I wrote. So,
but yeah, I definitely want to get you back on because I think, the dating thing and the timing of it is probably really good. So thank you very much, Michelle, for your time. Really appreciate it. This is a great show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button and subscribe. We're really trying to help guys out there. This would go a long way for us on the show to be able to do that. Special thanks to RCJ Productions, Keith and Lindsay. Thanks, guys, who met on eHarmony. And you guys want to check us out on our socials, YouTube at The Ycast, Instagram, Project Y Now, Facebook, Project Y, LinkedIn and TikTok, Project Y Now. Guys, we have the app. Please download the app if you can. And we are very close, Rob.
We are very close, yes.
To launching our products by another couple weeks. Yeah. We have an awesome face serum that we're launching and an anti-aging cream, or I should say age-defying cream that we're coming out with.
I bought gallons of it for myself. So
you're just going to bathe in it.
I'm going to bathe in it,
So keep an eye out for that, guys. And we'll see you on March 26th for episode 8. Thanks again, Michelle. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle. It was great. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye.